My mother-in-law tried to kill my daughter with a birthday cake. I'm Latifa 35, and that's not even the worst thing Margaret's done to my family. From the moment I married James 37, her son Margaret 65 made it clear I wasn't welcome, her icy stares, and barbed comments cut deep like she was slicing away at my confidence. She's got this old school mindset, believing a woman's worth lies in cooking perfect pot roasts and obeying her elders me. I'm a working mom who values my independence. And that's a crime in her book. When James and I lived across the country, Margaret was just a distant annoyance. Her phone calls easy to dodge, but 2 years ago, James landed a dream job back home, and suddenly, Margaret was at our doorstep every other week. Each visit felt like a test I couldn't pass. I grit my teeth, forcing smiles for the sake of peace, but inside I was screaming. My own childhood was a mess. Parents who criticized every move, so Margaret's judgment brought back memories I'd buried deep. Thankfully, James's dad, William 67, is a saint. His warm hugs and kind words were a balm to my wounded spirit. He'd wink at me when Margaret got too bossy, like we were in on a secret. But even William couldn't shield me from her constant meddling. She'd rearrange my kitchen critique, my parenting, and sigh loudly whenever I spoke. I felt like an outsider in my own home, my heart heavy with the effort to keep the peace. All I wanted was a stable, loving family for my daughter Sophie. 10, but with Margaret around, that dream felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I had no idea how far she'd go to prove she was right and how much it would cost us all. Sophie's laughter is my favorite sound, but it came with a price I wasn't sure I could pay at 10. My daughter's eyes sparkled whenever she talked about her grandparents. She'd come home from their house with stories of baking cookies with Grandpa William or gardening with Grandma Margaret. Her cheeks flushed with happiness. Those moments were pure magic for her, and I'd do anything to keep that light in her eyes. But every time I dropped her off at their place, my stomach twisted with dread. I cut ties with my own family years ago. Their toxic criticism too much to bear. That made William and Margaret Sophie's only grandparents, and James, my husband, held family close to his heart. Sophie deserves to know her roots, he'd say, his voice soft but firm. I couldn't argue with that, but Margaret's presence felt like a storm cloud over our sunny days. She didn't just disapprove of me. She had this way of undermining everything I did, especially when it came to Sophie. I wanted Sophie to have the grandparents I never had, ones who'd spoil her with love, not judgment. William was that person always sneaking her extra candy or teaching her card tricks, his laughter booming through the house. But Margaret, she'd watch. Sophie with a critical eye muttering about how I was too soft on her. I'd catch her slipping. Sophie snacks I hadn't approved, claiming I didn't know how to feed my own kid. Each time, I'd bite my tongue, reminding myself it was for Sophie's sake. Still, I couldn't shake the fear that Margaret's meddling would go too far. Sophie was my everything, and the thought of anything or anyone dimming her smile made my heart race. I prayed I was overreacting, but deep down I knew trouble was brewing. I'll never forget the day I found peanut butter smudges on Sophie's backpack. My heart stopped. Sophie 10 is deathly allergic to nuts. One whiff can make her throat swell, shut her small body fighting for air. I've drilled this into everyone in her life, including Margaret, my mother-in-law, but there she was last month handing Sophie a sandwich she claimed was just jam. When I confronted her, she rolled her eyes. "You're too paranoid, Latifa. A little exposure could fix her, the words burned. In my chest, I'd shown Margaret doctor's notes, sat her down with James to explain how even a trace of nuts could kill. Sophie, our pediatrician, confirmed Sophie's diet was perfect, balanced, safe, nut-free. But Margaret had her own ideas. She'd lecture me about toughening Sophie up, insisting nuts were the key to a strong immune system. You're starving her of protein. She'd snap, her voice dripping with disdain. I felt like I was screaming into a void. It wasn't just talk. She'd sneak almond cookies to Sophie, claiming they were healthy. Sophie, thank God, knew to check labels and politely refused, but I saw the confusion in her eyes. Why didn't Grandma listen? Each incident chipped away at my trust, my hands trembling as I double checked Sophie's snacks. I started packing her meals in locked containers, but Margaret called me controlling. The worst part. She'd say it in front of Sophie, planting doubts in my daughter's mind about her own mom. I lay awake at night picturing Sophie gasping for breath because of Margaret's ignorance. My love for her was afire, but so was my fear. I couldn't keep pretending. This was just a difference of opinion. Margaret's beliefs weren't just wrong. They were deadly, and I was running out of ways to protect my little girl. I thought I could trust my husband to protect our daughter, but I was starting to doubt even him. One night after Sophie was asleep, I cornered James in the kitchen, my voice barely above a whisper. "We can't let Sophie go to your mom's alone anymore." I said, my hands gripping the counter. "She's going to hurt her, James, I know it." My heart pounded as I pictured Sophie's blue lips, her small body limp from an allergic reaction. James sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Latifah, Mom's got her. Quirks, but she loves Sophie. She wouldn't do anything stupid." His calm tone made me want to scream. Quirks. Margaret wasn't just eccentric. She was reckless, ignoring Sophie's nut allergy like it was a minor inconvenience. I'd caught her slipping Sophie a healthy granola bar last week, one she swore was nut-free. It wasn't "thank God I checked James, she doesn't listen." I pleaded, tears stinging my eyes. She thinks she knows better than doctors, better than me. What if she gives Sophie nuts when we're not there? My voice cracked, the weight of my fear crushing me. James reached for my hand, his eyes soft. "Dad's always around, Latifah. He'll keep an eye on things. Sophie loves them. We can't take that away over a hunch." It felt like a betrayal. I wanted to shake him, to make him feel the terror that kept me up at night. Sophie's laughter, her hugs, her dreams of being an artist, they were all at risk because of Margaret's stubbornness. I loved James, but his loyalty to his mom was blinding. I stood there alone in my worry, knowing I'd have to be the one to protect Sophie. My resolve hardened, but so did my fear that I was fighting this battle on my own. Sophie's 10th birthday was supposed to be perfect, but it became the day my worst. Nightmare came true. The backyard was a riot of color balloons bobbing in the breeze, kids giggling as they played tag, and a playlist of Sophie's favorite pop songs blasting. She twirled in her new dress, her smile brighter than the sun I was in. The kitchen icing her favorite chocolate cake when Margaret swept in with a gift box bigger than Sophie herself, wrapped in glittery pink paper. "Open it now, Sophie." Margaret insisted, her voice sharp with excitement. Something in her tone sent a chill down my spine, like a warning bell in my gut. Sophie clapped her hands, her eyes wide. "Grandma, it's huge." She squealed, tearing into the wrapping. "William, her." Grandpa chuckled, clueless about the contents. "Your grandma's full of surprises," he said, ruffling Sophie's hair. I forced a smile, but my hand shook as I set down the icing bag. Inside the box was a stunning cake. Sophie's name swirled in pink frosting. For a moment, I relaxed. Maybe I'd misjudged Margaret. Sophie gasped, delighted. But then her face palled. She swayed, clutching her throat, and collapsed onto the grass. My scream tore through the party. Sophie, I dropped to my knees beside her, her breathing shallow, her lips tinged blue. James was at my side in a flash, his face ashen. "Get the EpiPen," I shouted, my hands fumbling in my purse. Kids froze, parents gasped, and the music felt like a cruel mockery. I jabbed the epinephrine into Sophie's thigh, my heart hammering as I prayed it wasn't too late. James dialed 911, his voice shaking. I looked at the cake. My dread confirmed crumbs, revealed flecks of nuts. Margaret had done this. My daughter was fighting for her life because of her grandmother's reckless arrogance, and I'd never felt such raw, blinding panic. I thought I knew anger, but nothing prepared me for the fury I felt watching my daughter fight for her life in the hospital. Sophie lay unconscious, hooked to monitors that beeped like a countdown. The sterile smell of antiseptic burned my nose, and the fluorescent lights. made my head throb. James held my hand, his knuckles white, as we waited for news. Sophie's small chest rose and fell, her face pale against the white sheets. Every second felt like a lifetime. My heart screaming for her to wake up. Margaret sat across the waiting room, her arms crossed, unfazed. I couldn't hold back. What did you put in that cake? I demanded, my voice shaking with rage. She shrugged, her lips pursed. Just a regular cake, Latifa. You're making a fuss over nothing. Her non-nuance was a slap in the face. I stormed to the cafeteria where the cake had been brought and sliced it open. My worst fear stared back. Chunks of walnuts scattered through the frosting. My knees buckled. She'd done this on purpose. Back in the waiting room, I faced her, trembling. You knew Sophie's allergic. You could have killed her. My voice echoed, drawing stares from nurses. Margaret scoffed. You're too strict, Latifa. A little exposure builds strength. I was helping her. Helping. I wanted to scream until my lungs gave out. James, his face crumpled, finally spoke. Mom, how could you? For the first time he saw her for what she was. The doctor interrupted, saying Sophie would pull through, but needed days of observation. Relief flooded me, but so did grief. My baby was safe, but her trust in her grandmother was shattered. I clung to James, sobbing, vowing to never let Margaret near Sophie again. My love for my daughter was a fortress, and I'd burn the world down to keep her safe. I never thought I'd ban a grandparent from my daughter's life, but Margaret left me no choice. Back home from the hospital, the birthday decoration still hung limply, a cruel reminder of the day we almost lost. Sophie Margaret was in our living room sipping tea like nothing had happened. Her casual dismissal of Sophie's suffering made my blood boil. William, her husband, sat quietly, his face etched with disappointment. Friends who'd stayed to support us lingered, their eyes heavy with judgment. I couldn't stay silent. Margaret, you nearly killed Sophie? I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. You're done here. You're not welcome near her again. Her eyes narrowed, but she laughed, a cold, mocking sound. You're overreacting. Latifa, Sophie will be fine. You're just jealous of my bond with her. Jealous. The accusation stung, but I stood taller, fueled by love for my daughter. James stepped forward, his voice firm. No, Mom. You're out. Dad can visit, but not you. His words hit like a thunderclap. Margaret's face fell, her confidence crumbling. William nodded, his voice soft but resolute. You went too far, Margaret. I can't defend this. Friends murmured in agreement, their support wrapping around me like armor. For the first time, I felt powerful, like I was finally protecting Sophie the way I should. Margaret tried to argue, blaming me for turning James against her, but her words fell flat. The room was united against her recklessness. As she stormed out, still defiant, I felt a weight lift. It hurt to fracture our family, but Sophie's safety was worth any price. I looked at James, his eyes reflecting my resolve, and knew we'd done the right thing. Sophie deserved a life free from danger, and I'd fight to give her that no matter what. I never imagined I'd see my mother-in-law in handcuffs. But justice doesn't play favorites. After Sophie's hospitalization, we pressed charges for child endangerment, a felony in our state, for exposing a minor to a known allergen. In the courtroom, Margaret sat defiant, her gray hair pulled tight, her eyes glaring at me. I clutched James's hand, my heart racing as the prosecutor detailed Sophie's brush with death. The evidence was damning. The nut-filled cake, doctor's reports, even William's testimony about Margaret's obsession with curing Sophie. Margaret's defense was pathetic. I was helping my granddaughter, she claimed, her voice shrill. The judge wasn't swayed. Your actions were reckless and nearly fatal, he said, sentencing her to 3 years in prison and ordering her to pay Sophie's medical bills. Her face crumpled as the gavel fell, her arrogance replaced by panic. She'd lost everything, her freedom, her family, her reputation outside the courtroom. William hugged me, his eyes wet. He'd filed for divorce, unable to forgive Margaret's betrayal. Word of her actions spread, and her siblings, cousins, even her book club turned their backs. She'd always prided herself on being the perfect matriarch, but now she was alone, her calls from jail unanswered. I didn't gloat. Hate wasn't in me, but I felt a quiet triumph. The law had protected Sophie when Margaret wouldn't back home. We got a restraining order ensuring Margaret could never contact us again. It was a shield, a promise that Sophie could grow up safe. I looked at my daughter, her smile slowly returning, and knew we'd won justice wasn't just a word. It was the foundation we'd rebuild our lives on. For Sophie, for James, for me, it was a new beginning. One where love and safety reigned. I thought we'd never smile again, but Sophie proved me wrong. After the hospital, she came home, quiet her usual. Spark dimmed by fear. Will Grandma come back? She whispered, clinging to me. My heart broke, but I held her tight. Never, sweetheart. You're safe now. We found a therapist, a kind woman who helped Sophie name her fears. In one session, Sophie drew a picture of a sun breaking through clouds, her small voice saying, "That's me, Mom, I'm okay." I cried, amazed by her strength. James and I started family therapy too, rebuilding trust we'd lost in the chaos. We learned to listen, to share our guilt, and love James. Apologized for not acting sooner, his eyes heavy with regret. I failed you both. He said. I squeezed his hand. We're here now, that's what matters. William became our anchor, taking Sophie to the park, teaching her to fish, his laughter filling the holes. Margaret left. His love was a gift, a reminder that family could be beautiful. Our home felt lighter, filled with Sophie's giggles as she painted or danced to her favorite songs. We hung her artwork everywhere, a testament to her resilience. The restraining order and Margaret's sentence gave us peace, but it was Sophie's courage that healed us. I watched her blow out her 11th birthday candles. James and William cheering, and felt whole. We'd faced the worst and come out stronger, our love unbreakable. This journey taught me that a mother's fight never ends, but neither does. Her love, Sophie's safe, and that's my victory. To everyone listening, thank you for sharing our story. If it moved you, please subscribe. We'd love to have you with us as we keep growing, healing, and loving.